there were, as I mentioned, 79 comments on my feed about this issue. And so I did some research today. And yes, 2 degrees is a big deal. Looking at it, it sure is a big deal. Because it does impact some crops that we grow here in America. It does impact work. Did you know if the temperature continues to rise, work productivity outdoors will decrease by 3%? Any decrease is really sad, actually. Again, the reporter on this is Laura Gegel. And I really appreciate her writing here at Live Science. She talked to Peter DeMonical, who's a paleoclimate scientist at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory at Columbia University here in New York. And first things first, to put 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit in perspective, she says, just about 9 degrees Fahrenheit separates the modern world from the last ice age, which ended 15,000 years ago. During that time, sea levels were about 350 feet lower than they are today because of an extensive amount of water stored at the poles, he said. During that ice age, 32% of the Earth was covered in ice. Now 10% is. And some of that's killing the wildlife. I'm not going to deny that. But here's where it gets interesting. Ocean acidification can make climate change, can be caused by climate change. And that means thousands of species, including oysters, crabs, corals, may not be able to form their protective shells, which in turn disrupts the food web. 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit increase would almost double the water deficit and would lead to a drop in wheat and maize harvests. And as I'm talking about this, I'm still thinking about, well, how can we meet a middle ground here? How can we focus on when a cold snap is here? How can we focus on not taxing everybody for every little environmental thing? And at the same time, how can we preserve this beautiful earth that God gave us? And the answer is, you encourage us all. We encourage each other to recycle. We encourage each other to maybe go electric car. We encourage each other to maybe do the solar panels. I mean, they seem to be all right. But the way everybody is talking about this and utilizing certain situations to promote that agenda of global warming makes you sick, doesn't it? Doesn't it? By the way, Alex G in NYC is my Twitter. Alex G in NYC is my Twitter. And I do hope you follow me. And I hope you shoot me an email at alex.garrett21, GARRETT21 at yahoo.com. But it's very, very, very strange how we can have the cold right in our face and climate change right in our face, when we should really all be focused on combating the cold, as I'm sure many in Chicago are, and Illinois are, and Wisconsin, and now New York, New Jersey, the Tri-State area will be tonight. And maybe I'm the only person in the world who got set off by this article of 2 to 7 degree increase. But I do stand corrected on one thing. That 2 degree increase is a big deal. And so groupthink on Facebook, and I do feel like there was a groupthink there, but they challenged me, and I accepted the challenge, and I look back, and I agree. Something has to be done. But don't tax us through the roof, progressive politicians. Don't tell us after a terrorist attack that global warming is the biggest threat to our nation, when it's a slow threat, sure. But the immediate threat is to wipe out ISIS. The immediate threat is to make sure that we understand terrorism still exists. not discount it and say, nope, global warming is the biggest threat. And then while everybody's preparing for contingency plans, don't shove it in people's faces that climate change is part of this. Because I think that's the last thing people want to hear. When everybody's dealing with the cold, how do we stay warm? You think someone talking about climate change is what someone wants to hear. So capitalization of it, instead of telling us where to go in New York City for shelters, instead of telling us about, Chicago's protocol for the freezing weather, if you're in Chicago, but you have a subset of, climate change this, that shouldn't even be mentioned until days after. Hey, climate change, this just happened, and here's how climate change is involved. And I believe, after reading back, that there is climate change involvement here. But as I said a while ago, the left takes advantage of it and regulates it to death, thinking that's the answer, or monetizing on it. I would want politicians in there who are genuinely caring about the environment and not using it to benefit their own pockets, to line their own pockets. Wouldn't you?